All right. Good morning. Good morning, Zoom. Good morning, Zoom chat. Hi, Mom. Hi, Miss Cook. Hi, Cookie. Oh, it's still not on.
No, it's not letting in, but it's on.
Just have it be audio.
Yeah, and it'll transcribe too.
Right, there we go. Yeah, we got it.
There we go.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I know that my apologies for being late. I am Jennifer Bush Harris, the writer, troublemaker, and author extraordinaire who wrote the novel Ruby that you are currently enjoying through my sister, Professor Jennifer Julian. So again, I want to extend my eternal gratitude for my sister for picking my little novel out of the linguistic ether to teach to each and every one of you. Again, I am honored to be before you all this morning. I'm so happy to be here with y'all. It was yesterday. Yesterday was amazing, and the reception was great. So I thank y'all for your hospitality as only we can do. Can I just say that because I'm home? Can I just say that because I'm home? And as far as the novel, it took me about, if I'm honest, about a year and a half, 2 years to write. And it started with the question of what if there was a man who was married to someone and come to find out she was never really the one that she wanted. And from that question came a flash fiction, which was like 2 pages. That flash fiction became 6 pages of a short story. I sat on it for a while before I actually picked it back up when I was working overnights at a hospital in St. Louis, Missouri. So, and the cover is actually made by an amazing graphic artist you can actually find on Facebook, Kai Ellis, Kaieellis. When I told him about the story, he literally, from wherever all his tools of the trade, he created it and showed it to me, and I cried because I wanted it to look like a photograph. So he actually was amazing for that. And he also tells me all the time that invest in your covers, because we know self-publishing is wrought with all kind of confusion. But at the same time, he said invest in your covers because those things are going to draw people to you. But I don't want to take up all the time with a little bit of backstory. But the novel is historical fiction. There are incidences that are pulled from my personal life, my mom's personal life. Hi, mom, and my father's personal life. And woven in the context of 1950s, late 1950s, St. Louis, Missouri. So Gaslight Square is a real place. It is somewhere that Dick Gregory, the comedian and activist and humanitarian, he actually was at. My mom remembers when Barbara Streisand came there and sang. So it's a real place, and the Gypsy Hand is not a real place, not a real place, but constructed out of those incidents from her memory and my imagination. So I'm open the floor for questions. Anything again, pick my brain. Yes, there will be a sequel. I'm working on that now because my sister bullied me and said there needs to have more said about this. So questions, things that you want to ask, things that you were clear about. No, there is no silly questions. There's no question that's off limits for it. Because somebody was this lab yesterday asked if the book was actually based on real life. So there are no stupid questions. I thought I saw somebody's hand over here. Yes, beloved. I did. At first, I didn't think that it would be strong enough to publish. When I say strong, as far as did I have enough story in it that people would want to read? So I would have incidents that I would write like man, I would sit on it, I would write like man, I would sit on it. And I had other people read it and weigh in. So again, this is a put in that. This is why I'm always going to suggest you all have beta readers. Somebody in your circle that can read over your work and be like, okay, because sometimes when you're so close on it, you can't see if it's good or not. So it's coming from your imagination. So you may not necessarily know if it's good. So I had second thoughts only because do I have enough story in it that people want to read? And then I actually had a friend of mine, also a Jennifer, who told me to go ahead, trust my gift, trust my talent, trust the story, and keep going. And when I asked her what trust the story meant, she said the story that you want to write, trust that's what you want and write that. Not what other people think you should write. Good question. Yes, beloved.
What is your writing daily routine look like?
Ooh, now you in my business, man. Now you in my business. I like you. You can stay. But as my writing schedule is, I try to write at least 10, 15 minutes a day. Do I always? No. if I'm honest, since I'm home, right, my sister lets me be a little free. I also do social commentary. I blog. I write essays. So there's always something that I'm writing. So I may not get that 10, 15 minutes every day, but I'm writing something at least twice a week. So I'm always going to suggest that your writing schedule should reflect your current demands. As far as, again, y'all are students, you may have jobs, you have things that you have to do. So if writing is what you want to do, don't be so confined and say, oh man, I didn't write 10, 15 minutes today. Man, my day is shot. You may have, for the class that you're taking right now, you may have to adjust that. If you can't do 10, 15 minutes in the morning every day, you may have to do it like on Saturday, or do it Sunday night, or do it, between classes, but you can do it. So for me, I try to write something every day. And if I'm writing something like a novel or a book of poetry, I'm normally writing every day, at least 10, 15 minutes. But I've been at this long enough now that and I've learned to adjust and give myself grace. Because sometimes I'm my own worst critic, and Jen knows this. I'll be like, I didn't get it done today. She's like, it's gonna be fine. I'm like, no, but I didn't get it done. But the biggest thing I can say is construct your writing schedule around the time that you have and maximize the time that you have. Good question. Yes, babe.
So for someone who don't really know too much about the publishing books and all of that, how would you, and they would probably have hopes to do that in the future, how would they, like, step by step do that, like, simplest explanation?
The simplest explanation that I can give you if you want to go into self-publishing is, go into publishing period is, there are two tracks. What's commonly known as traditional publishing, you get your manuscript together and you begin to shop it to agents and other publishing houses, or you can go through places like Lulu, Ingram Spark, or Amazon. A lot of writers that I know, because in the indie circles that I'm in, we actually do Amazon, where you actually get your manuscript, you have someone edit it, and you upload it. And it's just that simple. So whatever it is, you upload it, and then Amazon will tell you, do you have a cover? Yeah. And you upload that, and it'll take about, if it's an ebook, it take like maybe 24 hours turnaround. And if it's an actual paperback copy, it has to be at minimum 25, 26 pages. And paperback turnaround is normally about 2 to 3 days. So the simplest thing I can tell you is write it, save it, edit it, upload to a site by which it's credible, because there are a lot of these things. Y'all know what vanity presses are, right? A vanity press is you may see them all over social media. We're like, oh, give us $50 and we'll publish your book and we'll do the cover and all of that. Watch out for those, because those people will take your work and they'll take your money and they won't publish anything. So and they have these really pretty covers, but nothing else to them. So I tell everybody, because on the side, right, I do writing, coaching, and encouragement. I will tell you this: guard your intellectual property like you would a loved one, like you would your child, like you wouldn't want nobody talking crazy about your mama and daddy. Because once you put your work in the world, it still belongs to you. You have to protect it. So anything you publish is copyrighted. So no one else can go steal your stuff. So the most simplistic thing I can tell you is, before you even start writing, find a site that's dedicated to self-publishing. Again, like Lulu, like Ingram Spark, and like in Amazon. Save that, because I want to say Amazon wants you to upload in Word, and it's Word as a Word doc, or a PDF, so that way the text and fonts aren't moving or bleeding. And when you publish on Amazon, it's literally step by step. What's the title? Do you have an ISBN number? No. Amazon will give you an ISBN number. What's your document? Upload the document. Save the document. Do you have a cover? No. Do you want to create one? Yes. And it'll take you to those steps to complete that. Like when Kai did my cover, and I uploaded Ruby. It asked, do you have I think the covers have to be in JPEG or PDF, and you upload that, and literally Amazon will put everything else together. So the most crucial thing to remember is where are you publishing it through. And the most most reputable place, as crazy as Amazon can be, is really Amazon, because then you can actually have your book. You can actually have your book in certain libraries, open to other sites that it can be purchased from. So yeah, the biggest thing to watch out for is where to publish it at. So you still have control over your work. Excellent question.
I want to piggyback off of future Dr. Joe.
You see her telling on me? You see her telling on me? I try to come in here and be average, ma'am.
We're not average. Also be careful with who you publish. If you're doing an anthology. So if you have a short story or a poem or even a longer work, make sure you know the people you're publishing with and the contracts you sign, because your professor got at one point, and I'm still waiting for my royalty checks from 10 years ago.
And also, let me also pull what Professor Julian said to the front. If you do want to work on an anthology with people, there are 3 things you need to consider. One, are you going to keep control of your work? Because everybody wants an anthology, but you need to have something in writing that says, if this doesn't get published, do I still maintain my work? Am I still going to have it? 2, when is this going to be published? Because again, I'm not going to submit protect your intellectual property like you would your child or anything dear to you. If I submit my work to you, I'm expecting there needs to be a deadline as to when this closes or when you need it by. And the third is if this is going to be something that, and again, sometimes that you have people that put these projects together to quote unquote for exposure. All right, cool. You can also die of exposure. So if we're getting exposure, let me know that. And also, if you're gonna pay me, you need to be upfront about that. So all those things need to be in a contract. I know that everybody's like, well, get on my blog, get this, we doing it. Those 3 things need to, am I being paid? Do I keep my intellectual property? And when is this going up? And if anybody feels any way about any 3 of those, don't, because that's how people get their stuff sold. No, it was a child in red shorts, and he looked at me. I don't know. I'm like, had I known his name, I'd have called it, because he looked. I'm like, As she handles that, any more questions? Again, nothing's off limits, y'all. Y'all can ask. Y'all can ask. What's up? Mm-hmm. It depends on the work and the emotion that you have to put into the work. What is it going to demand of you? Like for me writing Ruby, I took from my own personal experiences, a few things from my parents' experiences, and things that I knew from current and past history. So for me, there were portions of the book that were emotionally demanding. So I'm like, I can't do this right now. And then get some strength and come back to it. So it just really depends on what you're writing, how often, again, the writing schedule, and how emotionally demanding this is going to be. Because there are certain, like when I wrote a small book of poetry called Sweethearts and Love Notes, I actually wrote the draft for that in a week. It was just that quick. And for Ruby, again, because that's a novel, different genre, different level of emotional involvement. So it took a little longer. But the one thing I'm going to, encourage you is don't have your timetable be comfortable for you. Because there are some of us, in this particular guild who can just crank books like that. Stephen King can crank books like that. I can't do that, right? And I think it was an interview that him and George R.R. Martin did, where he asked Stephen King, "How are you able to write these books so fast?" Right? And Anne Rice could write that fast. So I mean, there's times by which where the work is easy, and there are times by which the work is hard. But it's not impossible. You just have to know yourself well enough to be like, okay, you know what? It's been crazy this week. I could put anything into this. Or, this is really demanding. This is at a really hard part. I don't know what to say right now. Let me leave this alone for a minute. And there's nothing wrong with letting the work breathe while you get back to the space by which you need to be at. There's nothing wrong with that. So for me, Ruby took a year and a half because I was somebody's mama and working in everything else. So.
What are some hidden lessons that you think most readers miss?
One of the things I think that people miss a lot in Ruby is the dynamic between Deborah and Ethelene. Everybody focuses on Keys and Ruby getting back to you. Everybody focuses on that. But not a lot of people focus on the dynamic that Deborah and Ethelene have. Because when Ethelene left New Iberia, and again, spoiler, she left New Iberia because there was a man that was after her. And her mother was like, look, he's probably going to try to assault you. We need to get you out of here. So when she left New Iberia to come to St. Louis, it was Deborah who was her first friend. So I think a lot of people just kind of glaze over that dynamic that they've had. And in the book, I write that they've been friends for about 30 years. So, it's something that a lot of people kind of glaze over because we're so used to seeing that kind of dynamic between Black women. My mom and her and my godmother have been friends for like 30 years. And again, we kind of like throw those things out because we're used to them. But I think a lot of people glaze over their relationship because we're used to it. It's common. But really, if we pull back the layers a little bit on it, Deborah and Ethelene had a friendship during Jim Crow. And again, St. Louis is Missouri and Mississippi with air conditioning. So you have these two Black women, young Black women at that, in this situation where they're trying to make their life, trying to make sense out of everything. One is involved with a white man running numbers. The other one is dealing with this man and her other issues and her husbands and whatnot. And they forged a friendship in this particular space where both of them don't have to be Black to be there. So I think a lot of people get glazed over the dynamic between Deborah and Ethelene. One of my favorite scenes was when they were actually in the hotel and they had the music on and they were getting dressed. That casual intimacy that a lot of Black women build and strive to maintain. But excellent question. All right, more questions. Go ahead, babe.
I got another question.
No problem.
Sometimes I'll be writing essays and stuff like that, and I might just go there. So you might be feeling it.
Define go blank.
Not like, okay, you write it, and you just don't know. Maybe you don't have anything else.
Mm-hmm.
What do you usually do to like get you back on track? Brainstorming.
Normally what I do if I come up, because I call that the wall, not necessarily writer's block, I call that a wall. So normally what I do is I'll make sure I save it. Oh man, I'll make sure I save it. And also I'll give it, maybe if it's an assignment, if it's something that I'm doing, I may save it. I may wait a couple days and go back to it and reread what I have. And then that'll jumpstart it. But what I don't like to do is when because I have those moments. What I like to do is accept that this is happening and then go do something else. I may go out, I may walk around outside, I may talk to my kids, I may call my mama, but I will do something else that's not geared toward that. So that way, when I do come back to it, I reread what I have and I may make the radical decision to say, I don't like any of this and start over or build on what I have. But the one thing I'm gonna say is if you hit the wall, don't just throw it all away. You may just need to save it and be like, okay, let me go walk out. Let me walk around outside. Let me go call my people. Let me go get something to eat. Let me take a nap. But accept the fact that that's happening and then come back to it. More questions.
So you mentioned earlier that a student asked the question, was it a real life based situation?
Yeah. He literally asked me, was this somebody's real life? I said, no, it was carved from my imagination. There are portions of it that, are from my life, but I'm only 43. So no, I wasn't alive in, the night when I placed this. But I think one of the hallmarks of quote unquote good writing is that you're able to, as Morrison says, you're able to make the familiar strange and the strange familiar. So being able to draw all these influences in, I was able to build the world that I wanted. Because when people read Ruby, I want them to think about this could be somebody's real life, or construct the world in such a way that it's more believable. But that was my goal. But no, is it based on real life events? Perhaps, but no, just from my crafty imagination.
Oh, that's good.
No, this is good. This is good.
Another question. Like when you're writing and it's kind of similar to this question, but in a different way. Like if you're about to write something and it's kind of like emotional, or you're about to write on a topic that you don't really want to talk about. So like, how do you handle that? Like if you're about to.
I mean, if it's something that there is a way to write even stuff that's hard or emotionally demanding. What you have to tell yourself is you have to tell yourself, I'm not re-traumatizing myself. I'm just telling somebody what happened. I don't have to stay in that spot. I'm just telling somebody what happened. Like for me, I remember when my cousin was murdered, and I remember that I had all these emotions. I was of course upset because he died like the week I turned 25. So he got murdered on the 19th of June. I turned 25 that Saturday, and we had the funeral the day before. I remember my mind was everywhere, and the only thing I could do was write it down, because I had to tell somebody what was happening. I had to let what was in my head out, because I couldn't function. So what I've learned in those instances is, even, from the standpoint of, sometimes something that my mother has told me, you're only telling somebody what happened. You're writing from, and Tanana Reeves says this, you're writing from a place of power, not from a place of hurt or desperation. You're writing to tell somebody what happened. So what happened with my cousin Nathaniel, I wrote this essay because I wanted to tell somebody what happened. I want to tell someone that he wasn't just what the news said he was. He was my cousin. He was somebody's son. He was somebody's dad. I wanted to bring that I wanted to bring a pain. I wanted to bring a humanity to my pain, because so often when we as Black folk encounter sorrowful or traumatic conditions, society expects us to just write from trauma. So it actually is a tool to not only neutralize that, but to reclaim your power in that. So if you find yourself like, man, this is uncomfortable, I don't really want to write about this, take a minute, walk around, go do something else, and come back to it. If it's for an assignment for school, you may have to just thug through it, because you got to get it in. But if it's something that you're trying to convey, like an essay or a blog post, my chief tool for that is flash fiction. As far as, I'm just gonna write it, whatever is up here regarding the situation, I'm just gonna write it down. I'm not gonna edit it. If it's cursing in here, misspelled words, I'm just going to get it out of my head, save it, come back to it, review it. Because again, you want to write from a place of power, not pain. You want to be able to say, yeah, this happened, and yeah, it's uncomfortable. Yeah, this is bullshit, but I'm writing from a place of power, because I need to tell somebody what happened. And again, that's a muscle that, even I have to consider continuously work on, especially when people ask me, Jen, can you, my favorite is, Jen, you need to write something about this. How come I got to say something about this? I'm mad too. I don't have the faculties to say something about this that's intelligent right now. So sometimes I'll just take a minute, I'll do something else. It may take me a couple of days to get back to it. And there's someone I follow on social media, Pastor Christian A. Smith. He said, I'm trying not to be a first responder. And I took that to heart as far as writing is concerned. I don't always have to be the first person to put the op-ed out. I don't always have to be the first person to post about it. I don't always have to be first. Again, addressing what's happening, me processing it, and if I feel the need to respond verbally or in a written fashion, then I do it. Again, all about maintain your power and your peace of mind. Because the goal for when you do social analysis, when you do social criticism, is not necessarily beat up on people, but you want to, again, tell somebody what is happening. And I'm gonna say this: there needs to be more Black male voices in that space. There needs to be more of them. There needs to be more of them. Writers are a curious kind of record keeper. And I said this yesterday. I said James Baldwin said that Black people need witnesses in a world that thinks everything is white. Your experiences as a young Black man in America, they matter. Somebody gonna read that and get strength from it. My experiences as a Black woman in America, they matter. Somebody gonna need that. So the trick is write what you want always, and always remember that you're writing from a place of power because you want to tell somebody what happened. I hope that edified and answered the question. All right, more questions. Go ahead, babe.
I have a question. So, like, what are some good ways to improve our writing skills and like become a little bit?
Write every day. Read. Write every day.
Yeah.
Read. Write every day. You know, there are people who I follow on social media who, like I follow Bakari, I follow Bakari Sellers, and I follow Ta-Nehisi Coates. I follow those, you know, writers that I respect on social media, see what they're talking about, and then maybe I may find an article or whatever that they're referencing and go back and read that. But the best way to sharpen this gift is read and write. Read everything, write everything. Read everything, write everything. If it comes to your mind, write it down. And I'm of this mind. If an idea comes to you 2 or 3 times, that's a sign you need to write it down. You may need to write a page for it, or you know, again, these handy dandy devices. You may want to put it as a voice note, like, you know, like, okay, for example, when everything was, I have a girlfriend of mine who's actually in Missouri City. We want to do this like James Baldwin thing for his centennial birthday in August. So I get with her and we're brainstorming, but versus, you know, us trusting our memory, what we did was we made a note and shared it between one another. Like, okay, this is what we finna do. This is how we finna do it. So that way that's contained. And also rereading Baldwin, because okay, if we gonna do it, what are we gonna talk about? Are we gonna focus on a particular story, essays? What are we going to do? But read and write every day. Read and write every day. Something you can read or write something every day if you can. That's the best way. There is no wand, there is no shortcut. I wish there was, but there's not. More questions? Yes, babe.
From your book, Ruby,
Thank you.
I just wanted to get a little backstory on your character, Catherine, and how does she relate to women today in this generation?
Ooh-wee. Background for Catherine. Catherine is actually a composite of my ex-husband's grandmother and some very distasteful white women that I've known, and how she is relevant now is I want to say, because as we see now that we know whiteness is a construct, right? And we see that everything in Catherine's life is a construct, from her marriage to her children. Nothing in her life is real. Whiteness itself is not real, but she will do all in her power to hold on to it. Even Babs tells her, you know, you never really loved my brother. You loved what he could give you. So you see her consistently trying to hold on to a construct. And I think that Catherine is essential in that literary body because again, and I said this last class, that with the societal implications of Black folk in this country, right? There's always been Black people in the background spying on white people, right? Because we had to know how white people were moving so we would be safe, right? So as a Black person reading, because again, the book is in 3 parts. So you have Catherine's part in front, Ethelene, Ruby's in back, and you have the intermission. So us as Black folks reading Catherine, we know and sense that something like this, like something's wrong with this chick. Something ain't right with her. You know, she is up to something. She raggedy. She tried. As my mom would say, she trifling, she ugly acting, right? She trifling, she ugly acting. So I think it's important to examine her from that standpoint of being a very complicated villain. I didn't want her to be sympathetic. I wanted her to be as problematic as she possibly could in this particular space. And also, Catherine's built off some conversations I've had with my big sister Kelly, who works in family law. and she's had couples of all iterations, all races, come and sit before her in her law practice with the lawyers that she works for. And there are many a white women who will say, well, black women are just so, I don't understand it, and will say that there are no white men who date black women. Oh, let me hip you to history. Let me just hip you to history.
Be careful, Jennifer. Be
So
careful.
thank you.
Be careful.
Thank you, Mom. Thank you. But you see, she love my mommy. But I think it's important that she be examined, because I think also it kind of segues to Robin DiAngelo's Nice Racism, and it also segues into I think it was Tim Wise who says, was it Tim Wise who wrote White Rage? Was it him? I want to. Yeah, he did Tim Wise did White Rage, and it was Robin DiAngelo who wrote White Fragility.
But also Carol Anderson also wrote White Rage.
Right. So Catherine is, I don't want to say a straw man, but she is an example of the times by which we live in, that you have a class of white women at all costs who will try to preserve what is a construct. And us as Black folks are like, but it's not working, babe. But it's not working. So but you're
trying to keep things together.
right.
And still don't feel that mentality.
Yeah.
Like, for why? If it's not helping you, why do you feel like you need to hold on to it?
That is really the question. If it's not working, why are you holding on to it? And then we see in part two, and I'm glad my mommy is here, because when she actually read the book, she said, quote, Jennifer, Catherine's an evil woman, Jennifer. She's an evil woman. That's exactly what she said. And we see that while Catherine is trying to hold life together, we see Ethelene Ruby is accepting life as it is. She left Missouri because all this has happened. She had a long relationship with a man who loved her. We see that her children actually like being around her. We see that she has constructed a whole life that she maintains, right, through her own decisions and her own independent actions. We see that she has complete autonomy in her life. She doesn't see, and even as we examine the dynamic between Deborah and Ethelene, you even see Deborah saying, well, I'm gonna leave it up to you. You want to go back to St. Louis? You want to confront this? And you see Etheline's like, girl, I don't know. All these things are moot. And even in talking to the older Black women in my circle, I am of the mindset, again, at the age that I am, I understand that there are certain things that these older Black women may never tell me, because those may be secrets that they just gonna transition with. And also you see that in the dynamic with Michelle and Ethelene, where Michelle comes over. She's like, well, Mom, notes on St. Louis, they sent you some more mail. And she was like, girl, you ain't pulling my whole card. AKA, you can't make me engage with nothing I don't want to engage with. So while Catherine is demonstrative of what we see happening now in culture, especially when you confront white folk in the shenanigans that they own, and you see them desperately trying to hang on to whiteness, and whiteness is a construct by any and every means necessary, to the point that you see Catherine determined to try to take this man who she's had this whole life with, determined to take everything that they built out from under him, because now he's sick, right? So I think it's essential to not. I think it's essential that we recognize that villains are complex, because there had to be something in her, right, to make her believe that even though, like you don't, like, if we're gonna be frank, like, sis, you don't have it. Like, he just happened to live there. You don't have it, but it doesn't matter, because as long as he's there, you believe that you do. So the marriage doesn't matter as long as you have the illusion of it, as long as you have the construct of it, as long as you have the construct of the marriage and the kids, everything you're supposed to have. So, yeah. But yeah, my mother literally said to me, she said, "Who? That's the evil. That's the evil woman." But more questions. Yes, Professor.
So do you think that the construct
Mhm.
we see in society,
Mhm.
do you think that makes a big play in how Black and brown folks approach the world also?
Yes, because there's always been, we sadly, in certain instances and situations, have always been the other. And our survival has always been tied to what are they doing? Because if we know what they doing, then we can be safe. If we know what they doing, we know how to move and keep everybody else safe. If I know what they own, I can tell my children, like, look, don't go over there. Again, with the archaic notion, come in before the street lights come on. Every black child, more often than not, knows if it gets dark outside, you're not supposed to be outside, even if you didn't necessarily know what that meant. So I think that in confronting these constructs, even through the lens of fiction, right, that you see how essential it is that we talk about these things, because they don't just appear, right? I'm old enough to remember when my mother and aunts would tell us, don't go outside by yourself. And we were like, well, I'm just going around. No, she goes, no, remember, eek and meek. No, come, no, take, if you go somewhere, come back together. And I was like, I didn't know who Eek and Meek was, so I got grown. And these are these two African American young men who happen to have albinism, and they were kidnapped. They were outside, and they were kidnapped by a circus. And their mother had to go back and find them. They were gone for years. So again, that casual horror, as it were, that Black people have to navigate. Again, if I can see what they own, I know how to keep my children safe. If I see that, and again, you see in the novel that Babs or Barbara continually confronts Catherine in her shenanigans. Like, this is not doing what you think it's doing. And she was the only one brave enough to say, this is not what I'm not going to be part of this, to the point that she said that she said to her, you never loved my brother. You just wanted what he had. Again, more constructs, more keeping the illusion, more things that relate to, it doesn't matter how you feel about me. I just want the thing. Because if I had the things, I have control. And if I have control, I can then inflict my pain onto any and everybody else. Wonderful question. More questions.
They get out around 10:45.
Right.
So,
we can begin, because it's 10:27 now. So
I was with the time where you want to get autographs.
yes.
When did you know you wanted to be a writer, Jennifer?
Ma'am?
When did you believe you wanted to be a writer? How long ago was that? And what made you want to become a writer?
My mama. No, if I'm pressed, and I'm so glad my mother is here. So my mother and father have always prized literacy. There were always books in our houses. There were always books, magazines, things to read. And because I was that kid, I would draw in my book. And I remember my mother caught me drawing in my book. I'd be maybe like 5, 6. And she said to me, Jennifer, you take care, you don't draw in books. You don't destroy books, you don't draw in books. If you want to draw in a book, make your own. And I don't know why that struck me, but literally my dad would have this like long Xerox paper. So I would fold it in half, like the 11 by 13. So I would fold it in half and I stapled it. And I would, like, the little stories in my head as a kid, I would write them down and I would hand them to her. And she kept them in her scrapbook. And I think she still has all of them. But I knew I wanted to be a writer when I was 13. That's when it all began. That's when it all began to make sense. I liked being able to take what was in my head and push it through my hands and create these worlds and peoples and things. I like being able to do that, to the point that I wanted to, showing my age, at the time, NYU had the best English program in the country, and I wanted to go to NYU and get my doctorate in literature. That's what I wanted to do. But I knew I wanted to be a writer, mommy, when I was 13. I'm like, this is what, like, this here is what I want, what I really want to do. And I'm blessed that I have a mother who tells me, even when life is crazy, well, Jennifer, are you still writing? Notice she ain't say nothing. All right, Mom.
Thank you.
You're Mama. My mother's favorite poet is Langston Hughes, because of course
That's
it is. Because of course it is. And she actually had a copy of I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And when and she's the one who introduced me to Toni Morrison. So my mom is amazing. Mama, should Ruby have a sequel? She might be doing something.
I think that the thing that I take away from what you're saying is that children should always be encouraged to be bent in their own direction, not the parents' direction, but what they want to do with their lives, how they want to write. So you're doing well. I'm very proud of you.
Thanks, Mama. All right, but I know Professor Julian said y'all get out at 10:40, 10:45. So if y'all have your copies of Ruby, I'm more than happy to sign them. I have my pretty pen and everything.
And if you don't have a copy, I will get a copy. Send them this
Yay!
Talk to you later. I'm gonna sign off.
All right, bye, Mom.
Bye.